Okay. All right, so we are waiting to see some folks come in. Are you over on the West Coast today, Ian? Yeah, this is your home office, it looks like.
It is. I'm in San Francisco.
Nice. Okay, we're covering all of the United States today.
And I'm sure we'll have people either listening into the recording or listening in live from around the world.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right, well, we're seeing some folks come in, and I know we have a really great conversation to get kicked off today. So I would like to officially welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kalia Garrido, and I head up strategic marketing and events here at Hike 2. Hike 2, if you don't know us already, we are a fully functional, best-in-class innovation consultancy, and we specialize in digital transformation, strategy, design, and implementations. You are in for a treat today as we have some seriously smart folks on the line and ready to share their expertise with this group. But before we begin, some light housekeeping. This is a webinar, so of course your cameras and microphones are off, but we do encourage communication and engagement via the chat, the Q&A, or if you'd like, we can reserve some time at the end of the event for asking questions. We are recording, and this session will be posted out on the Hike 2 YouTube channel, along with a plethora of other great innovation forward content that we have there. I'll be sharing the link here in the chat soon. And allow me officially to begin by introducing our special guests. We have Vala Afshar with us. Vala is Salesforce's Chief Digital Evangelist. He is a world-renowned speaker on business digital technologies. He's a patent holding inventor. He's a social media contributor with over 1 million followers on LinkedIn and Twitter. And he is the host of the popular weekly web series devoted to business technology, which is called Disrupt TV. He is at heart a super savvy business leader and practitioner with a successful career as a chief marketing officer, chief customer officer, and VP of engineering at several tech companies before his tenure at Salesforce. Also, he's an author. As if we need one more thing, Vala, my goodness. He has recently released his book, Boundless, A New Mindset for Unlimited Business Success, which you can find out on Amazon. So Vala, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the kind intro. Thank you.
All right. And then we have, of course, the one and only Ian Gotts. He is the founder of Elements.cloud. Their change intelligence platform allows you to speak agent. It is easiest to introduce Ian with 3 numbers, 10, 20, 30. He has written 10 books and was at Accenture for over 10 years. He's a customer and a partner of Salesforce for over 20 years, and he spent 30 years right up there on his soapbox talking about the power of business analysis and building the right thing. Ian, as always, we at Hike 2 are so happy to partner with you and to have you here with us. Let's do this. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you for those kind introductions. Vala, again, thank you for joining me. I love spending time chatting to you. This is the precursor to Hike 2's Innovation Summit. I don't think anybody can talk about innovation without thinking about AI and agents. But I mean, there's lots of hype. So is this a fad, or do we think actually this is a major disruptive change?
It's a pleasure to connect with you again. You always expand my mind, so I appreciate you and the question. This is the most important technology of my lifetime. I've been in tech for 30 years, and I remember being an undergrad surfing on Mosaic and Netscape browsers in 1993. The web was launched by CERN to the world. And even though I was studying engineering, electrical engineering undergrad at the time, I didn't really think about this as a killer ingredient of my lifetime. I didn't realize that it would give birth to Amazon the following year, and Google 5 years, and Salesforce 6 years after 93, 99. And the most valuable companies on earth today are internet companies based on market capitalization. And so for a long time, I thought the web, if I had to pinpoint the most important technology of my lifetime, certainly, mobile revolution with with this device in 2007, the social networking and all of the, you and I have experienced so many of the technologies, distributed ledgers and Internet of Things and the data revolution of the last 10 years. But AI and its various form factors, and now specifically agentic AI, you and I serving in the Salesforce community, we've rode the wave of predictive AI and generative AI, and now we're in the center of agentic AI revolution. And so, yes, it is not a fad. Please don't confuse this technology with any other. The impact will be profound. I think it's electricity for the 21st century. It's one of those ingredients that if you ignore, you will be in the dark, and it'll be hard for you to compete and win and thrive in this world without it.
Okay, that's a pretty bold statement. Oh, and I think also we need to think about it. We're looking at it from a business perspective, but I think obviously from a consumer perspective, it's going to touch everyone's lives. And let's pick that up in a moment. But from a business perspective, I think there's some expectation management needs to happen here. I think people, they saw OpenAI, they gave it 3 lines and it wrote a poem and went, well, in that case, it must understand my business. I don't need to, I just ask it to do things. It's kind of not like that from a business perspective. If you want agentic AI, means you want it to do something. So it deterministic. You want it to help reschedule a booking. You want it to book an internal vacation. You want it to summarize a call. You actually need to give it some instructions. You need to give it some actions. So I think it requires some foundations. We've got to connect it to things. It's not just going to sit there on its own. So I think, talk to me a bit about what you think some of the foundations are from a Salesforce perspective.
Yeah, no, it's great that you ground the conversation on what is agentic AI and advancements in how we understand language over the last, I would say, massive advancements over the last 5 to 10 years, and then reasoning logic. So an AI agent can understand intent through natural language. One of the first white papers written on natural language processing was what Dr. Richard Socher, former chief AI officer at Salesforce, in 2018. He wrote the first set of papers on prompting. So understanding intent through language, planning and using reasoning and appropriate context. So, understanding and reasoning through, and you hear terminology like retrieval augmented generation, RAG, semantic search, vector database, all these scientific capabilities that allow the software to be able to reason and then take action. So understand language, understand reasoning, and at this point, you can give it agency to not be assistive in nature, but autonomous. So my company, for the last year and a half, we're now building software that does the work. We're not building software. For 24 years, we built software to give to humans so the humans can do the job. And now we're developing software that does the job alongside us. So taking action, using tools to accomplish the task, in any sort of jobs can be broken down to composable to set of tasks. And then, of course, this is the superpower of it. It's improving through interactions and through iteration. So it's constantly learning. So it's constantly understanding, constantly improving its reasoning, constantly improving its fidelity and its ability to precisely take action. So the reason why this is so important is, if you ask, our founder at Salesforce, our mission, he's likely to say our goal is to be the #1 global provider of digital labor. And if you had asked our mission 2 years ago, that would not be the statement. So, and I think this is why people are questioning whether it's fad or real, because of the velocity of innovation. The speed and direction is unlike, again, anything we've experienced. You referenced the consumerization of generative AI in October of 2022, and where 59 days later, 100 million people were using ChatGPT. fastest adoption of any tech in our lifetime, ever, in humanity. And now over 2.5 billion people are using generative AI capabilities. And to answer your question, yes, in business, where trust is your number one core value, it's common core value at Elements.Cloud and Salesforce. You have to have certain set of capabilities. For us, we call it kind of triad of capabilities. It starts with data. You need to ground your data. You need to have trusted data. That's both structured data that you have in a CRM and unstructured data you have on your documents and social and all the other. Majority of the data is unstructured. So there's the data element and the importance of having trusted quality data. The application, the 360 applications that we have, sales, service, marketing, commerce, Tableau, Slack, we have a variety of customer-facing front office applications. And then the agentic layer. And this is where technologies like RAG and language models and all these other derivative sciences within AI give you the ability to give agency to software. So, you sit back and you realize that, when we talk about hybrid work, it's no longer a location-specific definition. We're now talking about people and intelligent software co-creating value and ensuring customer success. And this is a profound, will have profound impact on businesses and individuals and society and culture, unlike any other technology.
So you talked about a couple of the foundations. One is obviously data, good quality data, and we need decent data governance around that to protect it. And the second you said was we need an application. So to take action, we need something that can post a record or get a record or do some form of action. You need the agentic layer, which is the ability for it to take that natural language, work out what it needs to do, build a plan, reason, and go and do it. But can I add two other things to that list? One is you need to understand what the business process is.
For sure.
If you say you want to go and this should take a call, analyze it, and then schedule a new call, we need to know what that looks like. It can't magically guess that for your business. So I think well understood business processes. But then the other thing we're discovering is how fast you need to iterate around these agents. You talked about the pace of change, but even if you've got an agent, relatively quickly you'll go, actually, I can think of a better way of doing that. So you need a really good implementation life cycle where you've got a level of governance. And because unless you've got that governance, no industry is, not just the regulated industries, no one's going to have the confidence to implement agents unless you've got a level of governance around it. I think you called it trust, but in terms of trust, you've got to trust your data, you need to trust your process, you need to trust also that you can drive around that cycle relatively quickly. And I think we're seeing organizations that have got those in place, they have the platform to grow really quickly and actually take advantage of agents. But for many organizations, they're still having to put those building blocks in place.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Can you talk to maybe some of the either customers or use cases that you're seeing that seem to be working well?
Sure. Let me just what you said is super important and foundational to all of this, and it was buried in the trust element. Building agents that work reliably absolutely require strong process fundamentals. And all AI projects are data projects. And so if you're going to build tools to design and build and scale agentic capabilities in your business, small, medium, or large, you need to do it with confidence. We saw this last week. I mean, your company, if I'm not mistaken, there were like 800 people standing wall to wall. I don't think there was any seats available at TDX, our developer conference that we have annually last week. And it was elements that, you showed no matter how outdated a process, no matter how manual the documentation, AI can now set up your Salesforce orgs for you and give you a visual representation of it. So instantly visualize how your org actually works. And with no manual effort, you can surface, hidden workflows. It's actual process, not what you thought or what you were told. And that's how you accelerate agentic applications. And so you have to have incredible discipline in order to achieve this magical experience. At my company, there's an agentic layer being deployed across all our functions: sales, service, marketing, every function. IT, we call it business transformation, business technology. My V2 mom, how we performance manage 75,000 of us at Salesforce. We have this process called V2 mom: vision, values, the first two V's, methods, obstacles, and measurements. Every employee has a V2 mom. Can be summarized probably in a page and a half. What's your vision? What are your values? Methods are how you're going to get to your goals, and then how you're going to measure success. We now use Agentforce to help with our V2 mom. So if I say I want to have 30 keynotes in fiscal FY26, I use Agentforce, and Agentforce reminds me, make sure you get audience survey of 80% or better with your keynotes. So now my practice is, when I speak at events, I ask for survey feedback, because it was Agentforce giving me specific metrics. I'm going to write 100 ZDNet articles. It gives me specific elements that identify what it means to be a successful columnist. So it's amazing how my methods and my measurements and my obstacles, because it knows I'm a single contributor, it knows where I sit within Salesforce. So it also gives me potential things that I should be. So as customer zero, just from performance management point of view, I find that I'm aligning my mission, my goals, my vision more carefully, more methodically, more deliberately with the company, not my team, my function, my company. Now, as far as customer examples, again, for 20 years, you've been serving our community, and we're a Salesforce, we're a customer of Elements.cloud. Thank you for helping us improve our visibility and our innovation velocity using your technology. But whether it's and you at TDX and at Dreamforce, you hear so many of our customers from, could be Adecco, who's a recruitment company, one of the largest in the world, now attempting to one-on-one be able to serve 300 million folks that use their service to find jobs. And in the past, they didn't have the ability without Agentforce to be able to provide custom engagements with this incredible customer base that they have. Boat bike tours in Europe, customizing biking and sailing trips uniquely to their customers. They're able to generate tens of thousands of quotes now using Agentforce. These are small companies. They're not, I can name, obviously we have Fortune 100 companies that are using the technology, but this is the beauty of digital labor. Some of the clients and customer success stories you hear, maybe the first time you heard the company, but I think it's important to know that when you can scale your labor, and this is unlike our lifetime where, you hired 50 salespeople, you can expect 50 units of output.
Yep.
50 software developers, 50 units of output. This is not linear when it comes to using intelligent software that's constantly learning, constantly scaling, and the models are improving at rates that it's hard to keep up with, to be honest with you. So it's a non-linear impact. It actually reminds me of the innovation we're seeing with autonomous vehicles. But that's what we're experiencing in business. So small businesses today now have the opportunity to implement this technology and compete with some of the largest companies on earth in terms of units of output and ability to deliver with currencies that matter most in today's economy: speed, intelligence, scale, and trust. And that's the power that I think you can have using agentic AI.
I think that scaling is really interesting, because I think that's what's challenging a lot of existing industries. If you're a small company, you can perform what could be done by a large company because you've got almost infinite capacity. I mean, thank you. You called out the product which we launched at TDX called Process Configuration Mining. We discovered, and it's taking all of the metadata in an org and then building diagrams so you can see how it works. We talked to a customer and said she just spent $500,000 with a consulting firm having that documented manually, and we've just done it in 10 minutes. Now, you might go, well, hang on, that's taking away work from the consulting firm. It is, but actually that was not valuable work. If you could have that information provided, the consulting folk can then do what they're really good at, which is then help coach the customer on there's a security breach here, potentially, or over here we could do some improvement. So I think we need to look at this as not just it's replacing jobs, but actually how do we actually elevate some of those jobs? Now,
Yeah,
clearly jobs are going to move around, but part of this is about how AI starts to provide more accurate information. You've got a good platform to build on. But I want to take you back to a couple of those examples that you gave. They were customer facing examples, and I think they are the highest risk examples that you could probably give because there's liability issues. There's a unless you're really confident about what the agent's doing, then I think that there's a reluctance to maybe launch some of those quickly. But I think the other one you talked about, which is internally facing, employee facing, your one for your V2 Mom, the ones we've got are internally facing. I think that's where people need to start. Lower risk, your employees will give you feedback. If it doesn't work the way expected, you can change it. And I think hitting for the sort of the home run, like we're going to put this on our customer facing website and it's going to deal with all our prospects, feels like too big a step at the moment. I know it's great to have those stories out there, but I
yeah,
think
sure,
it's also not necessarily replacing people. It's actually working alongside. It's not replacing you. It's helping you do your V2 Mom. So I think we need to
right.
bring it back to how do we use agents to make people who are already doing things more effective. And I think that's still valid innovation. It's not about scaling, building a business of 100 million business with two people. So I think we need to
Yeah.
bring some. I'm sensing at the moment we're at the very early stages of this, and people are struggling about where to start.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. My assumption is that, you're always customer zero. You're not going to launch anything in production and provide service
Yeah.
to a paying client unless you've test driven the technology, whether it's personalizing experiences. It could be coaching. Our sales professionals at my company have coaching where you have agentic AI reviewing it's not just your V2 Mom, it could be a video conversation. It could help you draft a more robust email. That's happening also on our services side of the business. It could be create for marketeers. It could be creating campaigns. As far as research and development, just research alone, you and I are prolific writers. You're much with 10x, 10 books. Well, we both, I suspect if I look at your phone, you probably have a half a dozen different generative AI tools. I know I have a half a dozen, and I have my favorites. It's incredible how it's turbocharging my research capabilities, providing me links so I can validate to make sure I'm using grounded truth as I'm developing my thoughts and sharing the content. So as you said, high value, low risk. But I have to say that you need to not just dip your toe in the water, because as much as the accuracy may not quite be there today, at the rate of improvement is such that when we have this discussion a year from now, where today over 3,000 paying customers are implementing Agentforce thanks to companies like you, Elements.cloud, very quickly, this isn't 10 years of us collectively trying to convince people that cloud is as secure, as safe as your on-premise rack of servers.
Yep.
And
Yep.
believe you me, it took 10 years. You and I know it.
Yeah.
My Salesforce implementation was 2003. And we went live April 2004. And believe you me, boardroom discussions in terms of why our most important asset, other than our people, our customer data, was moving to this thing called cloud. I had those debates and discussions for nearly a decade. This is not, so, yes, low risk, high value, internal, feel comfortable about it in your sandbox, build consensus and trust with your internal stakeholders, but know that you don't have the luxury of wait and see, because it's likely your competitor is going to have an aggressive approach towards assuming they have the processes, assuming they have their governance, assuming that they have their backyard clean enough to host a barbecue. But this is moving, again, a year ago, the mission statement of my company would not be today's mission statement. And the amount of investments going into hardware and software, because fundamentally you have to ask yourself, what does it mean to be a healthy company in an AI first economy? And this is like digital Darwinism, Darwin, the survival of the fittest. What does it mean to not only survive, but thrive and grow? And I think you have to have an operating system, an operating model that says you're able to sense and understand and decide and act. The military actually calls this SUDA, sense, understand, decide, and act, where the delta T from sensing and acting is converging to zero. And it's machine scale SUDA is how the military builds like the stealth bomber, or where at some point you actually disengage with the pilot, because the response time through certain maneuvering is measured in nanoseconds, milliseconds. A human cannot operate a machine at those speeds. What we're going to find in certain parts of the enterprise is that the speed to value from sensing to acting will require digital labor. And you and I, when we are at TDX or at any events in San Francisco, chances are we're in a Waymo.
Yeah.
Chances are we're going to be in a fleet of robo-taxis in the next few months. And when you're in a self-driving car, it's a kind of a reminder that we're building self-driving businesses where there is going to be a machine scale SUDA model in business. And it's machine-led human assist for certain functions, certain repetitive, low-value, frankly, boring tasks. Where you don't want someone's 10-year career doing things that can be done by software. And in time, it's going to be done faster, better. You also realize when you're in an autonomous vehicle that it's a different experience. And it's nonlinear impact. When you get to this level 5 autonomy, where it's completely autonomous, where the operator is free to, binge watch Netflix or build element process maps auto-magically within minutes. You're no longer operating the vehicle. This is an incredible empowerment to people in the vehicle. We're gonna experience that, and we're gonna experience that in business. But also the uneasy part. This is where we have to challenge dominant logic. You and I and folks we serve and business folks in general. Once you see there's no steering wheel in the car, once you see there's no gas or brake, no pedals, there are no mirrors, there's no back window, all the human user interfaces are gone. And you ask yourself, what does the agentic design in business, what would that look like, in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10 years? And so I think the healthiest companies are going to be autonomous companies. And I don't think you can achieve autonomy without implementation of agentic AI and perhaps physical AI, because when we talk about drones and robo-taxis and even humanoids at TDX, saw examples, albeit very early examples, of robotics and how, this is that car manufacturers are not, this is not new to them. The first industrial robot was invented in 1956. A year before the first time the word AI was used at Dartmouth College. So around the same time, AI and industrial robots, and now with autonomous vehicles, with the sensors and cameras and LiDAR and software and GPUs and CPUs, this incredibly deeply integrated platform that allows you to, have a cognitive download from the human to the vehicle. We're experiencing that in business, and it's going to be companies like yours and mine that will build the components that will give people the confidence, as you said, to start with these high value, low risk examples, but very quickly recognize that you're going to be delivering these same capabilities, and the complexity of tasks will grow. And that's why it's important to have process rigor, importance to have governance and data, because You can build a reputation a lifetime and lose it with one agentic action that's misaligned to your core values and guiding principles. Guardrails is one of the key components in terms of how we build the agentic framework, as you know. So it's the expectation for all of us need to be, we have to have a beginner's mindset. We have to recognize speed is important, and we have to continuously learn, because this will require us to be at our best.
There are so many strings I could pull on from what you were talking about. But let's pick up a couple of those. One is speed is important. So you can't sit there and go, well, we'll do one agent and then give it 6 months and see where we are. You need to lean in and use this period of time for experimentation, but also a time for building. If you haven't got great data, if you haven't got good processes, you've got to get on with that. Now, one of the critical resources is measures is time. So I think things are accelerating. So got to lean in. I think the other thing you said was about culture, and I think a culture of I'm sure AI can do that, rather than doing it and then going, I wonder if AI could have done it. Everyone in Elements.cloud, I'm sure the same is true for your company, is now thinking, well, I'm sure AI could do that, and they think AI first. If AI can't do it, well, then I'll do it. Or what elements of that activity can AI do for me? So I think there's a different shift in terms of that AI first, which feels like you're giving up some level of control, but you're kind of not if you do it properly.
Yeah, control is for beginners. When you achieve domain expertise, you realize it's not about control. It's about co-creation. It's about collaboration. The most remarkable people I know are not controlling by, you're the most accessible. You're always willing to share knowledge, always willing to celebrate best practice, always willing to change your mind when you're in the presence of something that's potentially better. So my experience with you is I've never, ever experienced any hint of the desire to be in control in any capacity. You just want to be helpful. But what you just said in terms of like when you're starting out on this journey, I think the first thing you have to ask is, what can AI do? This is why staying teachable is important. What can AI do today? And when you go and you see new launches of AI every week, you have new models that are being launched. And it's coming from different geographies around the world, which is incredible. It's questioning the cost models. It's questioning how quickly are we going to get to reasoning that's going to be, on par with at a human level. The next question is, what kind of infrastructure is necessary for that AI to work for my business? This is where you need to partner with Elements.cloud or Salesforce, because you have to understand, do I have the data? Do I have the applications? Do I have the agentic capabilities? Is it on a foundation? We spent years building Hyperforce to ensure we have a hyperscaler native to our platform, and Data Cloud for us, that layer of data, those 3,000 engineers, 3 years working to build that foundational capabilities, bringing CDP, customer data platform, not just in marketing, but across the entire application layer for us. So what kind of infrastructure is necessary? And then what kind of use cases warrant considerations? Like you said, do I want to hit the ground running with a customer-facing use case without making sure I've vetted that capability internally? Is this high risk? Is this going to, does this meet my ethical and privacy and governance requirements? You also have to recognize that when we do a CIO survey today, the number one challenge is data silos. Number two is integration. Okay. Data silos means that you have trapped data, but it also means you have trapped value. So once you understand what AI can do, once you understand your infrastructure readiness for AI's current capabilities, once you decide which use cases, I think doing a trapped value analysis to recognize where are there opportunities for you to delight your internal, external stakeholders, because businesses are full of friction, full of heavy processes, cultural constraints, and that limit us. Flow is all around us. We just, as humans, have creative ways of disrupting it. So optimizing flow of value where you can understand trapped value and being able to remediate is important. And then what type of ROI? How do you measure success? How do you measure this digital labor and the level of speed and personalization, scale, and enhanced trust that you're able to create. So your ROI design and even your relational design, there's relational intelligence that needs to come into play, because we're the last generation of managers that are going to manage just people. And I feel
Okay, so we've just released our new org chart, and the org chart has agents on it.
unbelievable. It doesn't surprise me, because obviously you're a bleeding edge. I mean, you're in the forefront of doing this. But imagine 5 years ago, as a CEO of the company, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you probably were thinking about this 5 years ago, but the most CEOs didn't think that 2025, calendar 2025, they would develop an org chart that would include agentic or digital functions on the org chart. We have our Higher Ed Summit happening this week. Unity Environmental College will be presenting at our summit. Dr. Malik Kalori is going to introduce his org chart at Unity Environmental University, 10,000 student campus. And he has his direct reports that are represented as digital twins via an agentic capability that they're launching. He has his own. So he's grounding a language model based on all of the information he uses to make decisions. And he's making this available to his leadership. So there's a digital twin of the president of Unity. So think about, this isn't just replication of, what I'll say, white collar work at the entry level. These are org chart elements all the way to the highest level, represented by intelligent software that has a persona that mirrors a twin of your key decision makers and key people in your organization. So you have to move fast. You have to decide how fast, how important it is for you to move fast. That's another decision. So what can AI do? Is your infrastructure ready? What type of use cases? How do I identify trapped value? How do I measure success? And then ultimately self-reflection in terms of how important is it to go fast. And I would say have the highest sense of urgency. Have a high sense of urgency, because your competitors are looking to differentiate using this set of capabilities. And as we're finding out, it is nonlinear. There's 5 levels of autonomous vehicles. Until it's fully autonomous, you see that nonlinear impact where you're no longer responsible 100% for driving the vehicle. You're now free to do everything else. And there's positive externalities that'll come from this autonomous vehicle revolution that we'll experience 5, 10, 15 years from now, because you will not need as many parking garages as we have today. Because as part of managing a fleet of autonomous vehicles, part of the optimization algorithms would be that the fleet is always in motion, or mostly in motion, where today our cars are probably driven 1%, 99% parked. So you have busy cities that are going to be redesigned. Garage is now a park, a school, a library, a hospital. Handicap can now operate vehicles. So you no longer are excluding certain group of demographics that couldn't take advantage of getting from A to B using vehicles. And of course, you're now creating monetization where it's likely your autonomous vehicle can be summoned into a robo-taxi in a gig economy. If you own a Tesla, it's likely that in the next couple of years, when you go to sleep, true wealth is when you're making money when you're asleep. You can send your Tesla into a robo-taxi environment and deliver passengers from A to B and create a revenue stream for yourself, and extend the robo-taxi to where private citizens are part of that gig economy. It's an incredible potential capability. ARK Invest, Kathy Wood believes this is a $10 trillion market powered by by AI capabilities. So self-driving cars and will translate to self-driving businesses. And again, it'll be technologies from companies like yours and mine that'll enable this revolution.
But just spend a bit more time thinking about an autonomous taxi, because I think that's a nice analogy for the autonomous business. Because you've looked at, there's clearly value for the passenger, but then it's all the other things you talked about. Parks, you don't need as much parking, therefore they could be turned into something else. There'll be fewer accidents, so that will also affect. You think about the entire supply chain. How many we saw during COVID, people weren't driving as much. There were far fewer accidents.
Yeah.
Autonomous vehicles have far fewer accidents because they don't bump into each other. The
400,000 miles is so Waymo cars are reporting 400,000 miles of driving in between police reported accidents. So far safer police reported accidents in Waymo cars than cars operated by humans, and the cost per mile will be an order of magnitude less with autonomous vehicles. So it's less cost to operate and far safer. And according to, again, I'll reference ARC, but there are other studies. Even though the robotaxi market is by 2030 could be potentially 10 trillion with 50 million autonomous vehicles on the road, the enterprise value, the companies that are building the software, the hardware, and the platform is 34 trillion. The entire GDP of EU is 19 trillion, just to give you a sense of what these numbers are, and of course, these are bullish numbers. They're conservatives numbers as well, and average, but I'm sharing the bullish numbers. The positive externalities from safer, more cost-effective, and also the stakeholders that will benefit and the city designs that will manifest itself from this, the positive externalities will be incredibly, incredibly important. And it also will shed light on waste removal, not cost removal. Optimizing for autonomous self-driving vehicle or business, the unintended consequence is that because we're building with incredible precision and the composability and the process rigor that you mentioned and the data governance, we're now operating like surgeons because it's becoming an algorithm. So we have to be very precise, very deliberate. What this means that we're able to identify waste more deliberately, and all waste are costly, but not all costs are wasteful. So often today in business, we're driven to reduce cost, and we end up achieving value atrophy because we look at the absolute cost of something, and if it's high, we'll remove it, not recognizing the value that's associated with that cost. So I think the lens needs to focus and will focus more on waste reduction versus cost reduction, because we can all agree all waste is costly. And this agentic layer will very quickly help us identify, because companies like yours in minutes can provide a process map. And now we look at that process map and go, why are we looping here so many times before we exit? What is this other set of stakeholders that are being invited into this process without them adding value? Why are we stuck? Why is there unnecessary friction? The reason why you had the #1 session at our developer conference last week is because we're all visual learners. 90% of what we process is visual in nature. And when you can have one end of the spectrum where someone's spending $500,000 and weeks, months later, you're getting a drawing of their process. And by the way, as the process changes, you forget that $500,000 you just spent, it's out of date. Yeah. You within minutes are giving us a visual representation of actual and continuously updating that in real time. How can someone compete with you when that's the capability? Because your sense, understanding, deciding, and acting, your SUDA as a delta T convergence to not quite 0, but minutes. Eventually, will probably be a few seconds. But machine scale SUDA is how you compete and win. And without agentic layer as part of your business, without digital labor, I just don't see how you can do it. So it goes back to my first answer to your first question. No, it's not a fad. And yes, I think it's electricity for the 21st century.
So I think one of the things I heard, which is the only place you find agentic ahead of simplify is in the dictionary. I mean, you've got to simplify first before you start applying it. I think we for people who don't like change, we've probably scared them witless. So can we just take this home and just think about what are some of the how would you future-proof your career? Where would you what are the skills I think that you need to learn to be relevant in this new world?
What a great question. What a great question. 8 years ago, when my daughter was a freshman in high school, I strongly encouraged her to learn software development. So by her junior year in high school, she was teaching coding. And so junior year high school, senior year high school, coding, and in all 4 years of college, she was coding. She went to school, studied computer science at Bentley, a business school, Bentley University, a local Boston university, actually in Waltham, suburbs of Boston. So anyway, she has a full-time job. She was offered a full-time job as a junior, six-figure salary at 22 years old. She graduates in May. She's going to start her dad, it took me, I don't know, 15 years to get to six figures. My 22-year-old daughter. But she's a proficient in Python, MATLAB, Julia, Scala, JavaScript. So she's been doing great programming specific to chatbots, and she did so that's my 22-year-old daughter. My 14-year-old son is a freshman in high school. I don't have the same vigor, enthusiasm about software as a career. Because I see millions of lines of code at my company now written by AI. I don't know, half of GitHub, I think, is AI produced new code. And more, the frontier developers are speaking to the pace of capabilities. So anyway, personal story, I'm a little less confident as I was, although I still think writing code is important. The hottest programming language now is English. So, you should be, and I think prompt engineering is programming, and I think system thinking, chaos theory, network theory, there's a lot of things that software developers and programmers have in terms of how they think about it. So I do think that's still viable. As someone, who is involved in hiring incredible folks into my company, I can tell you high rate of learning and good judgment. High rate of learning and good judgment will always be. I can't imagine that you're going to have an interview, whether you're a liberal arts major or you're an electrical engineer like myself, or my daughter who's computer science, or my middle daughter who's a freshman in college studying economics and data. She's data analytics and economics. I can't imagine you have an interview where the employer is not going to ask, what's your favorite Gen AI tool? Tell me how you solved a problem using AI. And it may be your liberal arts writing. And for me, Claude is the best ghostwriter that I use. I find Claude understands me more than any other language model, Grammarly helps me organize my writing better. Grammarly keyboard. I have a bunch, but anyway, to answer your question, rate of learning. So use these technologies. You want to future-proof your career? Know that next time you're in an interview, if I'm interviewing someone, I'm going to say, show me your phone, and I better see a half a dozen AI tools that you're using. Whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or Grammarly or Perplexity or Agentforce or whatever it may be. So get in the game. Trailhead, we have 20 million active learners on Trailhead. Understanding generative AI modules. We have prompt engineering. We have data literacy. We have knowing how to solve problems, ethical judgment. There are all these tracks we have that touches the core components of what we mean by predictive generative agentic AI, but also periphery set of capabilities and skills you need. So, and these are available to you, at no cost. So stay teachable, take courses that challenge your rate of learning, earn a mentor and a sponsor. When someone shows you that they're proficient I know you have employees that have been with the company only months, and they're producing unbelievable results using your AI tools. And these are folks that didn't come in as AI experts, but because Elements AI has an environment, a culture where experimentation is celebrated, where you know, because people aren't afraid of failure, they're afraid of blame. So when you have a CEO that encourages, like you, encourages your staff to use the tools, when you actually put AI on an org chart and you say, listen, this is important, this is the identity of our company, you give them the permission to try, to explore, to truly be trailblazers. So finding a mentor and a sponsor that gives you safe space to do that, I think, is the best thing you can do for your career. I don't know, future-proofing career, I think, is probably the hardest question to ask right now, because it's this technology will have profound impact on how we shift resources, how we hire, how we retain, and ultimately how we do the work that needs to be done.
I would say this because I've been on my soapbox the last 30 years, but it feels like business analysts are starting to be recognized. You talked about reducing waste. You talked about understanding what the process was. The business analyst skills, the architecture skills, those higher levels, the skills that are earlier in the food chain in terms of before you start building, feel like they're going to be important. And I think that sounds like quite a generic answer. Yeah, it is. But then think about what your industry or discipline specialization is. You can't just say I do Salesforce. What does that mean? Yeah, I really understand fact. I was having a call just earlier with a super switched on woman. She said, I'm in the finance industry. I understand regulated industries. I'm thinking about agents from that perspective. Perfect. So you've now narrowed it down. It's not just agents in general. It's an industry that you know about, leaning on that expertise. So I remember when I joined Accenture, you joined Accenture as a graduate, but then within 2 years you were in an industry stream. And once you were in that industry stream, you pretty much would, I mean, because you were deeply understood that industry, you weren't going to change. I ended up in aerospace and defense, which meant I was never going to be in central London. Everyone in banking and insurance was in central London all the time. But after 2 years of experience, you pretty much couldn't change industry. And it's very difficult to do that. And that's still really valuable, the in-depth knowledge about how an industry works and then how a discipline works, like how sales works or how operations or RevOps, those sorts of things. So I think leaning into those, and for many people on the call, you probably already have some of those skills. You just haven't seen them as valuable. Oh yeah, yes, of course I know the logistics industry, but I need to know about tech. No, understanding the logistics industry will become even more valuable because that's how you will generate and identify use cases. That's how you will understand how to simplify. It'll be how you understand how that industry will change dramatically.
Sure.
So I think we're at a really interesting time now.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say that I'm reflecting on my own career, my own, you know, and I give credit to my graduate school advisor who helped me improve my thinking. But you know, I operated by learning by analogy. I would say I was trying to be a good cook. Somebody would give me a recipe, and I would do a good job following the recipe. Now, if the recipe was lost, I probably couldn't make a delicious meal because I was learning by analogy, memorization, and mimicking, replicating, but not learning based on first principles. Not learning like a chef. A chef understands the taste of each ingredient. So when a recipe is missing, a good chef can just mix different ingredients and create something delicious. Yeah. But chef is constantly challenging and exploring and tasting and cooking and testing constantly. So there's a level of curiosity that separates a chef from a cook. And you are an explorer. You are a beginner's mindset. So my advice is please learn based on first principles. And that and if it means fine-tuning your domain expertise within an industry.
Yeah.
So you can, in an absence, and I say this also because I think we need to throw away some old playbooks. We need to throw away some recipes. What you use to build a powerful, scalable, trustworthy business today if it's not operating at machine scale SUDA, may not be able to have the same level. In fact, will not have the same level of success. So we need more chefs in business and less cooks. And there's an apprenticeship, cooks become chef when they learn from another chef. So this doesn't mean you're on your own. You will continue to learn by analogy, but you have to dig deep and you have to really understand first principles approach to improving yourself. So let's be more like chefs and less like cooks, and I think you'll have a good career, hopefully.
That feels like a perfect way to end this. Thank you, Vala, for spending time today. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Ian.
This is a fantastic conversation, guys. I'm sitting here just riveted the whole time. I love it. Ian, you said maybe this feels scary for people who are, kind of a little hesitant to lean into such a great scale of change. I think it sounds invigorating. I think you both have done a fantastic job of showing some of the positive sides of how this is going to benefit us as a society and where we get to experience new things and where we can offload some of those high volume, low output tasks that we do to agents and, kind of free us up to learn to be better chefs. I think this is awesome. Thank you both so much for sharing your expertise with the Hike 2 audience. My final plug here is that we have the Innovation Summit coming. If you've liked what you've heard today, when it comes to forward-thinking topics, please join us in Pittsburgh. It's in 2 weeks for depending when you're listening to this. It's March 26th and 27th. Ian will be there to share his expertise with us on site. So again, Vala, Ian, thank you both so much for this conversation. I personally have learned a lot, and it's exciting for really what the future holds for all of us. So
thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Hey,
Thank you.
I've learned so much as well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yep. And thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.